I found out my parents only kept me around for my money and openly called me a backup son, so I cut them off completely. Then they told everyone that I was the one who abandoned the family. I don't usually post on here. I just scroll, read drama, and mind my business. But things at home went so sideways, I honestly didn't know where else to drop this. You ever just sit back and realize your whole family treated you like a backup plan they never even wanted? Yeah, that's basically how I grew up. I am 31 male, the older brother, but somehow my younger brother Aaron has always been the golden child. I mean, the kid could literally set the living room on fire and my parents would ask me why I left the matches out. It's been like that since we were kids. They used to call Aaron 28 male a little genius just because he could plug in the DVD player on his own. Meanwhile, I was the one cooking boxed mac and cheese by age 9 while our parents were out doing God knows what. But none of that mattered to them. Aaron had potential. I was just there. Our mom Nancy is that kind of woman who talks like everything's fine but drips venom in every sentence. She'd say things like, Aaron just needs more space to grow. And you're older. You should understand better. Our dad Stan wasn't any better. He treated Aaron like the second coming of Steve Jobs and looked at me like I was a broken tire jack. It got worse as we got older. When I turned 17, I got a job at a local repair shop changing oil, replacing brakes, basic stuff. I was just trying to stack some money, maybe help out a little. And what do? Start charging me $400 a month in rent. That's right, 17, still in high school, paying rent to live in a house I grew up in. Fast forward a year, Aaron turns 16 and crashes his car. Guess who pays to fix it? Not him, not our parents. Me and they acted like it was normal. Like, well, you have a job and Aaron's still trying to find himself. Find himself. Bro was literally skipping class to vape behind the school and cheat off his girlfriend's homework. And they wonder why I moved out as soon as I legally could. But here's the thing. No matter how bad it got, I still helped them. When Dad lost his job for the third time, which wasn't even a surprise at that point, I helped cover their electric bills. I sent money monthly when their mortgage started falling behind. Even bought Aaron a used laptop when he said he needed it for a remote internship that turned out to be some MLM crypto thing. I didn't do it because they deserved it. I did it for my mom mostly. I kept thinking she'd change that if I helped enough, they'd finally see I was worth something. But people like that don't change. They just see you as a faucet. And the second it stops dripping, they start screaming. My wife Sarah kept telling me it wasn't right. She's a third-grade teacher. Sweetest person I know. Tough when she needs to be, but always fair. Every time we'd visit my parents, my mom would hit her with one of those fake smile lines like, "So are you still just teaching?" or "Must be nice to have summers off." 'Cause real condescending crap, but always said in that polite voice that makes it hard to call out without sounding crazy. Sarah never complained though, she just took it for me. Then there's Max, our dog, a rescue. Big old mutt with one floppy ear and a crooked tail. He's basically my second kid. Been with us since before our daughter was born. That dog sat with me during late-night shifts, road trips, everything. And my parents hated him. They'd always say things like, "You care more about that animal than your own blood." Funny how the dog never asked me for rent money or called my wife useless. Now here's where things went from just crappy family dynamics to straight betrayal. Last year, during some random family dinner, I went to the kitchen to grab water for Sarah and me. My daughter was in the living room with Max watching cartoons. I wasn't even trying to eavesdrop or anything, but I stopped in the hallway when I heard my name. Dad was saying, "He acts like he's some big man because he sends us a couple $100. Then Mom added, "It's disgusting. He's a failure, and he doesn't even see it. If Aaron had that kind of money, he'd use it properly." Then Aaron, of course, had to throw in his 2 cents. Honestly, if he wasn't paying the bills, I wouldn't even bother talking to him. I stood there staring at the hallway tiles like they were about to crack. I didn't move. I didn't say anything. I just listened. They went on for a while too about how they were just using me to stay afloat and he'll always be the backup word for word, like I wasn't their son. Like I was just an ATM they could insult when the screen turned off. I walked back in, set the water down, and told Sarah we were leaving. She knew something was up. I didn't say anything until we got in the car and Max was loaded up with our kid in the back seat. Then I told her everything. She didn't say "I told you so." She just said, "Good. Now let's be done with them." And I was. No more money, no more calls. I blocked every one of them, even Aaron. Changed my number. Told my job I wasn't available to do repairs on weekends anymore so I could spend time with my actual family, the ones who mattered. Max got extra treats that night. By the way, the thing is, I thought cutting them off would make me feel guilty. But it didn't. It felt like standing up straight for the first time in years. Like finally letting someone else carry their own dead weight. But they didn't take it well, and they didn't go quietly either. So after I cut them off, I figured that'd be the end of it. Like, all right, they'll be mad. Talk trash for a while, then eventually move on. Wrong. Cutting off their free ride just lit a fuse I didn't even know existed. They didn't come back with apologies. They came back swinging. I started getting weird texts from numbers I didn't know. Stuff like your mother's crying herself to sleep, and you abandoned your family for a dog. I blocked them one by one. Then came the Facebook messages from extended family. Aunt Lisa, Uncle Brian, even some cousin I hadn't talked to since we were 10. All saying stuff like, you need to make things right. Or your dad always tried his best. You're being selfish. All parroting the same thing like they were reading from a group script. I found out later that my mom had been calling everyone in the family telling them I lost it and was having some kind of mental breakdown. She left out the part where they openly admitted to using me for years. But the biggest shift came when my grandpa's name started getting tossed around. Grandpa Joe. My mom's dad wasn't rich, but he owned some land. Big open property outside of town, probably worth low six figures if sold. When I was a kid, he used to take me fishing there. He taught me how to change oil in his truck, how to patch drywall, even how to sharpen a mower blade. He was old school and quiet, but always respected people who worked hard and didn't complain. When I stopped talking to my parents, I still called Grandpa every couple weeks just checking in, asking if he needed anything. He always said the same thing. I'm proud of you, kid. He knew how my parents were. He'd seen it for years. He just never stepped in because, in his words, I wanted to see if they'd wake up on their own. Spoiler, they didn't. Anyway, one day he mentioned he was putting together a will. Nothing dramatic, just said he wanted to make sure everything went where it was supposed to. I didn't think much of it, honestly. I wasn't expecting anything. I figured he'd split it all evenly between his kids and grandkids, or maybe just sell the land and downsize. But a month later, things got weird. Aaron, my lovely brother, who never lifted a finger unless it was for himself, started showing up at Grandpa's place like regularly, bringing him groceries, fixing stuff around the house. I knew something was off immediately. Aaron doesn't fix anything. The guy once called me because he didn't know how to restart the Wi-Fi router, but now he was playing Handyman of the Year. Turns out Aaron found out about the will. My parents must have heard something and sent him in like a scout. Butter him up, get in his good graces, and maybe manipulate the will in their favor. That's when I started watching things a little closer. Aaron's always been a snake, but for some reason people never seemed to catch on. At work, he had a desk job at some logistics company. Nothing fancy. His title sounded more impressive than it actually was. Regional compliance specialist or something like that. But really all he did was fill out spreadsheets and send reports. The thing is, he'd been doing shady stuff there for years without getting caught. He'd copy other people's work fudge numbers to hit his KP, is even submitted a few expense reports for client lunches that were just him and his girlfriend ordering takeout. I only knew all this because his dumbass used to brag about it in the group chat we had years ago. He'd say stuff like, "Bro, my manager is so dumb. I literally submitted the same report from last month, just changed the dates, and no one questioned it because he wore dress shirts and talked fast in meetings. He lived on shortcuts. Always did. And somehow, it always worked out for him. He'd fail upwards, talk his way out of issues, charm the higher-ups just enough to avoid real accountability. Meanwhile, if I showed up 5 minutes late for a delivery, my pay got docked. That was the difference. He had a family making excuses for him and bosses who never looked too close. I had bills and reality. Anyway, back to Grandpa. One day I get a call from him. He's confused, quiet. Says he got a call from someone claiming to be a health representative asking about his memory. Asked if he's been forgetting things, if he's been misplacing items, if he feels overwhelmed managing property. I told him that sounded shady and asked for the number. Turns out it wasn't some random checkup. It was arranged. A week later, I found out my parents tried to claim that Grandpa was mentally declining, that he wasn't fit to handle his own estate. They were working on submitting documents, fake documents to the court suggesting he had early signs of Alzheimer's. They had a bogus doctor's note too, probably paid someone or forged the damn thing. That's when something in me flipped. I wasn't just going to walk away anymore. I wasn't just going to block a few numbers and call it done. They wanted to play dirty. Cool? I know things too. I had messages, I had screenshots, I had receipts. First, I helped Grandpa contact a lawyer. We locked his estate down properly, got real evaluations done, and made sure any court filings on his behalf would trigger an alert. He even recorded a video saying he was fully competent and understood exactly what his will said. That alone nuked any chance they had. But I wasn't done. Aaron's job. Yeah, I dug up every single thing he ever bragged about. Fake expense reports, copy-pasted audits, even one time where he left sensitive files open on a public terminal at a FedEx. I gathered it all, sent it in an anonymous package to his HR department with a little note, "Might want to audit your golden boy." 2 weeks later, he was fired. No references, no severance, no dignity. My parents were furious. They tried calling again this time, screaming voicemails instead of guilt-tripping ones. I saved them all. You never know. The best part, Grandpa updated the will, left everything to me and his great-granddaughter. Aaron's name was scratched out completely, not even a penny. That's when the begging started. So Aaron got fired. Not laid off, not downsized, fired. Like full-on escorted out of the building kind of fired. No handshake, no "we'll be in touch," no severance package, just a walk of shame out the lobby and a security guy handing him a sad little cardboard box with his coffee mug and desk junk in it. Took 2 days before my mom called me. She didn't ask how I was, didn't ask how my daughter was doing. She went straight into rage mode. "This is your fault," she hissed into the phone. "You've ruined your brother's future." I hung up. Then she started texting Sarah. That didn't go the way she planned either. Sarah doesn't play polite. She's dealt with bratty third graders for 10 years and knows how to handle manipulators like a pro. She responded once, just one line. "Stop contacting me. We protect our peace now." Blocked. But the real storm didn't start until a week later when my parents showed up at Grandpa's lawyer's office during a routine check-in. They tried to present the forged medical documents again. Yeah, even after everything. Claimed Grandpa had no idea what he was doing. Said his will had been influenced by outsiders, read me, and that he was not of sound mind. Only this time they walked straight into a legal buzzsaw. Grandpa had already filed a preventative notice with the county clerk's office. Basically, it was a "don't touch my stuff unless I'm legally ruled incompetent" kind of thing. He also had that recorded video we made earlier, where he literally held up a newspaper, said the date out loud, and explained every line of his will, calmly and clearly, with the lawyer sitting next to him. Once the judge saw the video and compared it with the garbage report my parents submitted, it was game over. Forgery is a serious thing, especially when it involves manipulating someone's estate. Turns out my Uncle Mom's younger brother had a friend in the court system. He tipped us off that there might be actual charges coming down. Fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy to defraud an estate, all of it. And the best part, they did it all to themselves. I didn't even have to push. I just made sure the truth was waiting for them at every corner. Aaron was spiraling hard. Without his job, his fancy apartment was too expensive. So he moved back in with our parents. From what I heard, he spends most of his time gaming and rage tweeting about how family betrayed him. Classic victim mindset, always someone else's fault. My parents, they were quietly drowning. The money I used to send gone. Their mortgage was behind by 3 months. Car payments, late, utilities bouncing. They even got their internet shut off, which honestly made me laugh a little too hard. Aunt Lisa sent me a voice note saying Mom had cried for 2 hours the night the internet cut out, blaming me for ruining the family's reputation. Like I was the one who faked medical reports and tried to rob my dying grandfather. They still didn't get it. Meanwhile, Sarah and I were doing all right. Not rich, not flashy, but solid, stable. I had picked up a few extra contracts, started saving to buy a second-hand truck so I could scale up. Sarah was tutoring after school for a bit of side cash, and our daughter had just gotten Student of the Month. Max was healthy, I was sleeping better. The house felt peaceful. And for the first time in years, I actually felt proud of my life. Then the call came. It was late. I was watching some dumb show half asleep on the couch when the phone rang. It was my mom. I stared at it for a long second before answering. No idea why I picked up, honestly. "Dad had a stroke," she said, voice flat. No hello, no lead-in. "He's in the ICU." She said it like it was my job to fix it. Like that information should have moved me into action. But I didn't move. I didn't even blink. I just sat there listening. Then she added, "You should come. He's asking for you." That part did hit different. Not because I felt guilt, but because why? After everything. After calling me a failure, after mocking my wife using my money like a piggy bank, and then tossing me out like garbage, now he suddenly wanted me there. I told her I'd think about it and hung up. Sarah walked in a few minutes later and saw my face. I told her what happened. She didn't push, just sat next to me, rested her head on my shoulder and said, "You don't owe them anything." She was right. So I didn't go. A few days later, they showed up. Yep, outside my place. I don't know how they got the address. Maybe a cousin. Maybe they followed me once. Either way, there they were. My mom and Aaron standing at the gate looking desperate, faces tired and washed out. Mom was crying. Aaron looked like he hadn't shaved in weeks. "We just want to talk," she said when I opened the front door. I didn't even step outside. "Then say it from there." She tried pulling the guilt angle again. Said Dad was recovering but weak. Said he might not have much time. Said he kept mumbling my name. Then she asked if I'd consider helping out with some of the medical bills. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. "You mean like the way you helped Grandpa?" I asked. That shut her up. Aaron, though, still had the nerve. He stepped forward and said, "You're really going to do this after everything we've done for you?" I swear to God I almost lost it. But I didn't. I stayed calm, looked him dead in the eyes and said, "You remember what you said that night at dinner? That you only tolerate me because I pay your bills? Good news. You don't have to tolerate me anymore." I closed the door in their faces. No yelling, no big dramatic speech, just silence. You'd think after everything, the fake documents, the begging, the screaming at my front door, they'd finally get the message. That they'd back off and just disappear. But people like my parents, they don't let go. They don't accept boundaries. They see your silence as disrespect, your peace as rebellion, and they take that personally, especially when they're broke and desperate. After that last confrontation outside my house, things went quiet for about a month. No calls, no texts, no mystery relatives showing up in my inbox trying to mediate. For a second, I let my guard down. Business was picking up. I'd managed to lease another used semi-truck, old loud but dependable, and landed a regular freight gig with a distributor that had me running between Chicago and Indiana twice a week. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady money enough to finally stash some savings away. Sarah and I started talking about maybe taking our daughter to see the ocean for the first time that summer. We even looked at little cabins in Tennessee. Something simple, just 3 of us and Max in the back seat. It felt like we were finally catching a break. Then one morning, I walk out to the lot behind my small office, just a gravel lot I rented behind a gas station, and my truck is trashed. And I don't mean keyed or tagged, I mean destroyed. Windshield smashed in, every mirror busted clean off, tires slashed, front bumper hanging like it got into a fight with a train, spray paint all over the side, big red letters, family trader right there across the door like I was in some mob movie. I stood there for a minute, just frozen, looking at it like my brain couldn't fully register what I was seeing. This truck wasn't just metal and wheels to me. It was how I fed my family, how I paid rent. It was freedom, and someone tried to take that away. No cameras, no witnesses. The lot was in a dead zone. I filed a police report. They said they'd look into it, which basically meant nothing would happen. I knew who did it, you know who did it, but unless I had proof, it was just words. The final nail. When I walked around to the passenger side, I found the glove box forced open. They didn't steal anything. They just left a note written in Sharpie on the back of a Walgreens receipt. It said, "Still think you're better than us," Aaron's handwriting. I'd know it anywhere. Sloppy, barely legible, like he never grew out of middle school. I kept that note, didn't hand it to the cops, didn't even tell Sarah about it right away. I just took a deep breath and walked back inside. I was done being polite. I was done waiting for them to self-destruct. Now I was going to bury them legally and make sure they'd never come near me again. First, I got security cameras installed. House, office, truck lot, even dash cams, everything. Then I went back to the lawyer handling Grandpa's estate and filed a restraining order against my parents and Aaron. I added documentation, all the voicemails, texts, social media messages, and photos of the truck. No note. I kept that for me. The lawyer helped file a civil claim too. Property damage and loss of income. I didn't even care about the money. I just wanted it on paper. A paper trail. Something their next victim or future employer could find if they ever ran a background check. While that was processing, I worked off my backup truck. It was slower, older, didn't have a sleeper cab, so I had to rent cheap motels when routes went long, but I made it work. Max rode shotgun most days. Sarah packed me extra sandwiches. My daughter left me little drawings in the glove box. I kept moving. What pissed me off the most wasn't even the damage. It was the message. That note. That smug little question. Still think you're better than us. I never thought I was better. I thought I was free. And that's what they couldn't handle. My success wasn't flashy. I wasn't rich. I wasn't famous. But I didn't need them anymore. That's what drove them mad. That's why they lashed out. Because people like that need someone under them. Someone they can look down on, control, humiliate when their own lives fall apart. I took that away from them. When the court date came, they didn't even show up. My lawyer said it was probably because they knew they couldn't afford the risk. Losing the case would have put a judgment on their record. Made it even harder for them to get loans or credit or whatever half-baked plan they were cooking up next. But the judge approved the restraining order 6 months renewable, and I did renew it twice. At that point, they were basically ghosts. I didn't hear from them. No more doorsteps, no more calls. But word got around. Aunt Lisa called me one night and told me my parents were ashamed to show their faces in town anymore. They'd become a punchline. Whispers at church, awkward glances at the grocery store. Even their old friends had started backing away. Apparently, someone in their friend group had a kid who worked in HR at Aaron's old company. Found out exactly why he got fired. Word spreads fast when your whole life's built on image. Good. They earned every bit of it. Meanwhile, I kept building. By the end of the year, I'd saved up enough to buy my own office trailer, just a small, used one from a contractor who was retiring. Plopped it down behind the lot, hooked up power, turned it into a little dispatch center. Sarah helped design the inside. My daughter helped name it Base Truck. The name stuck. Max got a little bed in the corner. We hung up a whiteboard, some shelves, even got a mini fridge. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. One night, as I was locking up, Sarah pulled into the lot with Olivia in the back seat. They'd brought takeout. We sat on the steps of the office trailer eating fries, watching the sun go down. And I realized something. They hadn't just damaged a truck. They tried to destroy my life. But all they did was make me build a better one. A few months after the truck incident, things finally started feeling solid. I wasn't rich, but I was stable. The restraining order did its job. No more surprises, no more smashed windshields, just peace. Boring, quiet, reliable peace. The kind that doesn't sound like much until you've lived years without it. Then I got a call from Grandpa. He was calm like always. Told me to stop by that weekend. Said he wanted to finalize everything with the lawyer and make it official. I already knew what he meant, but I didn't push. I'd learned with Grandpa. When he was ready to talk, he talked. So I drove out Saturday morning. Sarah and Olivia came too. Grandpa always had a soft spot for my daughter. He'd saved every drawing she ever gave him, and he kept them framed in his hallway like they were rare museum pieces. She gave him a new one that day. It was a picture of us standing in front of a big red truck with hearts all over it. He stuck it on the fridge right next to the family photo from our wedding. Then we sat down with the lawyer. Grandpa pulled out a folder. It had everything in it. The deed transfer, the revised will, a letter to the court, even a notarized statement explaining why he made the changes. He wasn't messing around. He said, "I've seen what entitlement looks like. I'm not letting it ruin this land." He gave half the remaining property to Uncle Ray, his only brother still alive, and the other half to me. No loopholes. No, unless he apologizes crap. No one else's name appeared anywhere in the documents. Then he handed me a second folder. Inside was a check. 6 figures. He said I sold the hunting cabin. Figured you'd put it to better use. I didn't even know what to say. That cabin had been in the family for decades. But he just looked at me and said, "That place held memories for people who stopped caring. It's time for it to hold value for someone who does." I didn't cry. I'm not a big crier. But something inside me cracked a little. The kind of crack that makes you feel seen, like someone finally acknowledged the years you spent holding everything together while being told you were nothing. That money didn't go towards some flashy car or big house. I used it to lease 2 more trucks and bring on 3 full-time drivers, all guys like me, overlooked, underpaid, treated like tools by their last company. I paid them fair, gave them weekends off, hell, even built a little break room in the corner of the new warehouse we rented. Nothing fancy? Microwave coffee pot, folding chairs, but it was ours. Business boomed. Word got around that we were reliable, fast, and honest. Soon, we had contracts running up to Minnesota, down to Kentucky. It got to the point where I had to hire a dispatcher just to keep up with scheduling. And every time I pulled into the lot, saw the fleet, saw Base Truck lit up at night, I'd think, this is what I built without them. And apparently that's what drove them insane, because somehow they found out. I don't know if it was a cousin stalking my LinkedIn or someone in town running their mouth, but it didn't take long before the messages started again. Must be nice with Grandpa's money. You're stealing what belongs to our family. Don't forget who raised you. Funny, I never forgot. I just stopped pretending they did a good job. The worst was when my mom tried to play the health card again. Called me sobbing, talking about how Dad's recovery was going backwards, how he needed a new medication they couldn't afford, tried to guilt me into covering the cost. This time, though, she added something new. "We'll lose the house, Caleb. Aaron has nowhere else to go." That was supposed to make me care. I told her flat, "You raised a man who cheats, lies, and destroys things he didn't earn. That's not my problem anymore," she snapped. Went full rage mode. Called me every name you can imagine. Said I was cold-heartless. Said Grandpa would be ashamed if he knew what I'd become. Too bad Grandpa was sitting next to me at the time. I'd answered the call on speaker in his living room. He leaned back sipping his tea and muttered, "She never did know when to shut up." I think that was the last time I spoke to her. 2 weeks later, I found out they tried one final move. They hired some sleazy lawyer to challenge the will. Their claim Grandpa had been coerced into making the changes. That I'd manipulated him. That he was too old to make legal decisions. They tried to dig up anything they could. Old health records, blurry statements from distant relatives who hadn't seen him in years. Even tried to drag on Uncle Ray into it, who told them to go to hell. By the way, their biggest piece of evidence was a photo of me helping Grandpa up the stairs at the courthouse. You know, doing what decent people do when someone is 84 with a bum knee? The judge dismissed the case in under 10 minutes. Grandpa's lawyer didn't even break a sweat. The court fined them for filing a frivolous suit and wasting time. I heard they had to take out a loan to cover it. Now they were truly sinking. The house they ended up defaulting. It got auctioned off. I didn't buy it. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't want the headache. Let someone else gut it and start over. Aaron. I heard he bounced around a few jobs. None of them sticking. He's living with some girl now who has no idea who he really is. Last I heard, he was telling people I stole from Grandpa and framed him at work. Funny how that story keeps changing. As for my parents, they moved into a small apartment in the bad part of town. Word is they're scraping by on whatever retirement funds they didn't already burn through. They keep telling people I abandoned them. And they're not wrong. It should have ended with the court case. With the house gone, the will locked down, and me finally free of their mess. But people like my father don't go down with quiet dignity. He'd spent his whole life puffing his chest, mocking others, acting like the world owed him something just for existing. When it all crumbled, he needed a final performance. I got the call on a Tuesday. It was Aaron. First time I'd heard his voice in months. Dad had another stroke, he said. No hello, just straight into it. It's worse this time. They don't know if he's going to make it. I didn't say anything. He kept going. He's asking for you, man. He keeps saying your name over and over. Just come see him. I waited for the rest. There's always more with him. He doesn't have anyone left. Just Mom and me. And she's not doing great either. Please. He just wants to see his son. I almost laughed. He didn't want to see his son. He wanted to see his last shot at a payout, but I didn't say that. I just said, let me think about it, and hung up. I told Sarah later that night while we were making dinner. Olivia was sitting at the table drawing some picture of Max with a superhero cape on. It should have been a peaceful moment. Sarah looked at me and said, "You're not really thinking about going, are you?" "I don't know," I said. "I guess I just want to hear him say it. Admit what he did." She shook her head slowly. "He won't. And you know that." I did know, but some small stupid part of me thought maybe, just maybe, he'd surprise me for once. I drove to the hospital the next day, sat in the parking lot for 40 minutes. Never went in. Instead, I walked across the street to a gas station, bought a bottle of water, and just stood outside watching people go about their lives. Nurses grabbing snacks, a teenager pumping gas, an old guy walking his dog. Normal people. People not tangled up in years of fake love and backhanded compliments and lies that smell like cheap cologne and kitchen table guilt trips. Then I went home. 2 days later, they showed up again. No warning, no call, just like always. I opened the door and saw them. My mother, Erin, both standing there like they were auditioning for some pity documentary. Mom's face was drawn out like she hadn't slept. Erin looked like someone trying way too hard to look broken. "You didn't come," she said, voice flat, cold. "No, I said I didn't." "He was crying for you," she said, putting a hand on her chest like that was supposed to mean something to me. I didn't flinch. "I cried too. Just didn't see you at my door back then." She swallowed hard. I could tell she had more loaded up. Some guilt trip, some Bible verse, maybe another round of "he's still your father." But Erin cut in first. "Look, we know things got messed up, but we're still family." I actually smiled at that. "You know what day it is today?" I asked. They looked confused. My mom tilted her head slightly. Erin glanced at his phone like it was some trick question. "Today is my birthday," I said, "December 23rd. You lived with me for 18 years, paid my rent with my own job, covered your bills, and neither of you know when I was born." That shut them up real quick. I stepped out, closed the door behind me, and leaned on the railing.